So Prince Andrew losing his royal titles isn't just a scandal. It's actually a mirror for all of us. It's something for us all to think about. Even in this situation, the ex-Duke of York is still trying to retain, in fact, he is going to retain the title of Prince. Why are these titles so important? And what happens when these titles are taken away? Because we all chase them, right? We want to be CEO, we want to be an influencer, we want to be a millionaire. We all chase these titles and we cling to them. But what happens when they're taken away? What happens when the world stops clapping? That's something I want to talk about, I want to think about, and I have been thinking about it a lot, because your worth should not be determined by your title. There's got to be more under the hood for you to be somebody of value, right? Now, this whole thing is touted a lot now. High value man, high value person, all these kind of things. What dictates high value? What defines who is high value? Now, if I was to look at it again from a historical point of view, if I look at the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, the Prophet Muhammad was a shepherd. Prophet Jesus was a carpenter. Now, if you were to mention in this day and age that, oh, he's a shepherd, he's a carpenter, everybody like, mate, get a job, get an online job. What's wrong with you? You can make 10K a month. Get an 8-pack. But the impact they had, the value they brought to the world, billions of people practice Islam on the back of this shepherd, and billions of people practice Christianity on the back of this carpenter. I would argue that's what you call value, right? And, you know, these titles, Duke, King, CEO, blah, 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 all these kind of things that we have. You come into this world alone, you're going to leave this world alone. That little portion in the middle is what we call life. But ultimately, when it all comes to an end, no one's taking their titles with them. No one's taking their wealth with them. Everyone's going into the same soil. I don't mean to be morbid. I don't mean to be, I'm just trying to make a point here. No one's taking anything with them. You're all going to rise in front of the same Lord. And when you rise, he's not going to be kings over here, CEOs over here, influencers over here. That's not on account of how you're going to rise. You're going to rise on account of your deeds, on your actions, your character, your values, your morals, because in the eyes of God, that defines value, right? So, even if you look at pilgrimage, if you look at Hajj, and I'm sure with other pilgrimages that people do in other religions, when people turn up to Saudi Arabia for pilgrimage, nobody's wearing Louis Vuitton, no one's wearing Loro Piana. It's at a certain point, you all have to get into one garment. It does not matter your race. It does not matter your religion. It does not matter your wealth. If you've got an 8-pack, none of these things matter. In the eyes of the Lord, you are all one. But yet we cling to these titles like absolute maniacs. And it's got me asking the question then, well, what is value? What determines what value actually is? And if you look at the market, for example, if you take any product, the price of that product, the value of that product is determined by what somebody is willing to pay for it. An iPhone, for example, you could argue there are other phones on the market that do the same thing, maybe even do more. But Apple's a brand. People look at it in a certain way. They perceive it in a certain way. Therefore, that dictates the value. So why do we not associate that same thing with each other, with humans? There could be a guy in some remote village that if he was to appear anywhere here, everybody would be like, who's he, this poor old guy or whatever. But he might be somebody of such wisdom, such value, that in that little village, he may bring so much joy, so much happiness to people that they look upon him as a valuable person. So your value isn't determined by wealth, 8-pack, all these kind of things. Look, I work in a business where We deal with multi-millionaires, okay? And part of my job is to make sure that the people that come in are correct for what we're doing, for the product we're running. And the metrics that I use to judge that, yes, there's a minimum entry requirement on account of how much the product is. But that's about it. After that, I'm looking at what are you like as a person? What are your values? What are your morals? Are you somebody who's going to help others? Are you kind? All these things are things that I take into consideration. And the effect of that is when we then run events and such stuff, when people come together, it's always such a tremendous atmosphere because the people are great people. Because I made the conscious decision to deduce value, what value is based on their character, not on what they earn. Look, there's people on there, like if you've got an 8-pack, says you're XYZ, yeah, it says you're disciplined. And no, I'm not saying don't work out or don't earn money, of course, right? But I know people with 8-packs who I wouldn't have a coffee with. So clearly that doesn't make them valuable or high value. What makes somebody high value is to be a person of honesty, a person of integrity, loyalty, somebody who's caring, somebody who's kind. This is what is important, and this is what I'm trying to stress here is Prince Andrew is just an example of what the modern world is like. Everybody is clinging to something that gives them status. Because the status game is greater than the wealth game. We always chase status. We always want to be known as the person. But it's important to understand what metrics are you bringing to define value. And I think that that's something that everybody needs to think about. I think in light of what's gone on, I'm not a huge fan of the monarchy and all these kind of things. It's not for me, but nonetheless, it's a great example of where we're at. I mean, look at this man. Look at him, implicated in so many things, right? And yet he's going to retain his title of prince. You're clearly not a good person. You've clearly done bad things to get to this point. Yet even in that, where's the remorse, man? Where's the sadness? Where's the compassion? Where's the empathy? Instead, like a madman, you're clinging to this title of prince. No one cares. No one remembers people like that either. I keep saying this. I've said it before. No one remembers titles, wealth, all these things. People remember how you made them feel. So I guess this is just a message to say, wake up. Wake up. Don't fall into this trap of thinking value is how much money you've got in the account or how you look or your height or your body and all these kind of things. And ultimately, who is anyone? Like, look, he was born into a royal family, Prince Andrew. He didn't choose, he didn't work, he didn't do anything to be bestowed that title. And yet he's clinging on to it for dear life. So yeah, I guess ultimately, I would say, take some time to understand who you are, what you bring to the world, what that value is, and what you look for in others, whether that's a friend, a business partner, a life partner. Look at their values and their morals and their ethics. And this is what religion teaches as well, by the way. All the religions talk about this: morals, character, ethics. And it's not a coincidence that the world is going back towards religion. There is a big push now, whichever religion, people are going back to religion because I think this material nonsense has just made people feel empty. It's created a society of empty people. And please, please, please do not think that you don't have any value. They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so is value, man. Value's in the eye of the beholder. Just show up in a way that is valuable. Show up in a way that is kind. Be somebody that even when you're not around, people smile. Oh, yeah, I liked him. He's a good guy. He's always helpful. He's always looking after people or giving people advice. Be that person. Don't be that person. Yeah, oh yeah, he's great shape. He's in great shape. And so really think about this. Think about how you look at the world. Think about what you associate value with. And until then, I'll catch you next time.